Hi. Thank you for having me. My name is Macdonald Scott. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, which means I'm a licensed consultant. I work at the law firm of Krenza LLP, and I'm also with the Immigration Legal Committee, which is a joint committee of No One Is Illegal, hence the T-shirt, and which is a migrant justice organization, and also the Law Union of Ontario, which is a progressive legal organization.
Wow.
I'm here to focus on the last two recommendations in our recommendations, specifically having the city advocate with the province and with the federal government. I'm sure many of you have seen the poster that announces Toronto's access without fear for services. I've been told it's not specifically a policy, but it basically sets out the city's guidelines. On that poster, you'll note that the things we say that we don't allow access for are those that are specifically governed by provincial legislation. So what can people not access without fear? Well, we spoke earlier about the police. When we went before the Toronto Police Services Board, they said that it was the Police Services Act that gave them an obligation to work with Canada Border Services Agency. So that's provincial legislation. There's welfare and Ontario Disability Support Program. Well, the Ontario Works Act specifically does not allow people without status, except in certain situations, to get welfare. The Ontario Disability Support Program Act does the same thing for people trying to access ODSP. And I don't have the time today, but I think to note on welfare, though, that one of the more recent changes is that Toronto no longer gives a personal needs allowance through our shelter system. It's been changed to the basic needs allowance, and that along with that, it's come more thoroughly under the Ontario Works Act, so that my clients who are in shelters now no longer can access the $9 a day that they used to be able to get through the personal needs allowance. They're basically leaving the shelter in the morning without a penny in their pocket. Toronto Community Housing is governed by the Housing Services Act, which is why a lot of people without status cannot access community housing. And of course, then of course, health is largely governed by both the Health Insurance Act, which ensures that people without status cannot access OHIP, and also, of course, the cutting of the interim federal health benefits, which was mentioned in the earlier item on the motion, plays into that as well. So we can't actually create the city we want to create, a city where people have access to services completely, regardless of their status, without going to the province. I'm also here to speak a little bit in my remaining time about the need for us to go to the federal government. And I think some of that was dealt with really earlier. I think people talked about the 4-in-4 program and how that's really putting people in jeopardy, and perhaps the city would want to step up and take a position on that. I also would say that we should take a position on regularization. What is regularization? A regularization program would be a program where people without status, in a way that was easy to access, without onerous criteria, could access a way to get status. What we would say would be best would be permanent residency status, so they had all the rights of a permanent resident. We have had regularization programs in Canadian history. The largest one was in 1973, called the Adjustment of Status Program. 39,000 people gained permanent residency through that program. It was open for only 2 months, but in that time, through the work of community organizations around the country, 39,000 people came forward and gained status. Now, we have the estimate, and I think it was asked about earlier, but the estimate put forward by Lewin Goldrig and others in the Access Without Fear, I believe, says that we have around 200,000 or more non-status people in this city, and that's in the Greater Toronto Area. And that's not including, I believe, people with precarious status, so foreign workers, people who may be a failed refugee claimant but have not yet completely fallen out of status, or people who just don't have proper ways of documenting their status. They may have status but have lost the documents. This is 200,000 people who are our coworkers, our family members, and our neighbors. Our city, these people are part of our city. We work and live with them and play with them every day of our lives. I've grown up in this city since I was a baby. I've been in this city 45 years as a resident of Toronto. The city that I envision, the city that I think most, if not all of you envision, is not a city where we will have a two-tiered system of citizenship. Not a city where some people can access safety, health, housing, welfare, and others cannot. The way to resolve that is not only to change our policies and to implement the policies we already have, but to go forward and advocate with the province and advocate with the federal government to ensure that everyone has access to status and everyone has access to services. Thank you.